Hey, welcome to the Generation One podcast. We are so excited for what is going to take place in this conversation. We're going to be talking about comparison. And I don't know about you, but this generation specifically, I feel like we all struggle with comparison in one way or another, whether it's through social media or even the people in our lives. Sometimes it's easy to compare ourselves to each other, and there's something so incredible about you that you can't afford to be distracted by comparison. So we want to get this to you now and just start the conversation, because that's what this is all about. We're starting the conversation here so that we can continue it in our lives. And I believe that God wants you to be free from comparison so that you can embrace the uniqueness that is you. We love you. Let's go ahead and get into this. Welcome to Generation One.
Welcome to Generation One. Today we're going to have a great conversation about comparison. I'm here with some pretty cool people, and you're going to see them now.
That was so good.
I'm the editor, so I'm going to say stuff, but you're going to see them now, and now you see them. Okay, cool. So we're talking about comparison, right? Mm-hmm. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good, man.
Good.
Man. Doing wonderful.
Tired, but good.
I love all the color coordinations that we didn't actually plan.
How we do.
It's lovely.
Just
So,
how we do.
all right, so have you personally struggled with comparison, and if so, how?
I say I have definitely struggled with comparison. For me, especially in the area of music, because like there's so many different artists out there. So like I'm always like, ooh, okay, I might not have like what he has, and I might not have what he has, but I'm like, okay, I still got stuff for myself at the same time. So I think a lot of times, there's different things that you can compare yourself to, but I think admiration kind of gets, like for me, I will look at somebody and admire them, and it actually be comparison. So like even for me, sometimes, and this is kind of like, I guess I'm kind of opening up a little bit about this, but like my dad, sometimes I compare myself to him. And even though like he's like my biggest role model, I look at him and I'm just like, wow, like I'm not there at all. But also I have to understand it took him 49 years to get there. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes, comparison, it doesn't really help you, because all you're doing is invalidating everything that makes you great. So I've definitely struggled with comparison, but we all getting better.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Day by day.
That's good.
I would say for me, my comparison comes in probably in social media the most. If I spend too much like time on Instagram, I literally get like anxiety and like I start to feel bad about myself just seeing like all these people in perfect form. And I think, we really don't know how these people model their lives behind the screen, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's just what I'm having to constantly like remind myself is like I'm building me, and the likes and the views, like none of that is like really important. You know what I mean? Like don't place too much value in that. But yeah, if I stay on social media too long, I definitely start comparing myself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, especially with social media, we're comparing ourselves to this polished version of somebody. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like I'm an editor, I'm in film, and so everything that I shoot for social media that should be very natural ends up looking a little spruced up. It looks all edited and polished, and so I'm guilty of that too, that I oftentimes will like, okay, I need to just find some like, even like when I'm shooting podcasts with friends now, I don't nitpick all of the camera settings to death to make sure it's just the most beautiful thing, like, which isn't really like sacrificing the excellence of it, but it's just like, let's just capture it. Let's just set these cameras up and talk. And I try to free myself of that so it looks like an authentic moment for people, because oftentimes like lighting has to be perfect. Got to do this music in the background, sound effect here. And like, it's like, all right, chill out. Like just get the content out, So I definitely am guilty of being on the other side of that, but also seeing somebody else's perfect stream of content and like, wow, they've got it,
right.
So it gets interesting.
Being in this generation and also just this age is very hard. So like we're all like in our 20s. Some of us are getting married. Some of us are very single and still living at home with our parents. So like it's like there's comparison, but there's also like so many different stages. So like I always think, so I just graduated college like a couple years ago. So like all of my life has been set for me. You go to 9th grade, then you go to 10th grade, you go to 12th grade, and now you're in college. And so like I always knew, and someone asked me like, what are you doing? I'm majoring in this. I'll graduate next year. So I've always had like the plan. I've always knew what the next step was. And I could always compare myself. Okay, I'm like, okay, I'm a junior, they're a senior. I know my place. I know their place. I know like when I'll get there, it'll be this time next year. Like I'll be a senior this time next year. Now that like I'm outside of that, it's like I'm trying to figure out like, okay, it's okay to still be at home. Like it's okay to still figure out that. And like even in this generation, I feel like people born in like the late 90s, mid 90s, 2000s, like we're groomed for comparison. Like for some people, their first phones were iPhones, or like for other people, their first phones, like we were downloading social media on them. So we've been groomed to like see other people's lives. There's been no like stopping. I'm able to see like what my middle school friends are doing, and I haven't even talked to them, and I know exactly what they're doing now. So like it's just so much information, so many paths that we see our friends taking, and it's very hard to like, for me, it's very hard to place myself in my path at times. So I'm constantly, like what you were saying, I'm constantly trying to figure out like, okay, this is where I want to be. I see that my friend, they have like 20,000 followers and like brand deals, and but like do I even want that? Like I'm comparing myself to this person, but one is that, do I want that, or am I just seeing that like that's what they have? So it's like it's a questioning of like if I even want that, / trying to figure out like what really is my path and what's my end goal. Like that what I would say is my struggle, is like I compare, but I'm not entirely sure if what I'm comparing is what I even really want. It's just like because it's in front of me, I see that, and now it's like all of a sudden my goal this week.
That's real.
So that's what I'm struggling with the most.
That's good.
I definitely feel you too, because after I graduated high school, I was just kind of like, okay, what's next? Because like you kind of lose that sense of structure. Like you were saying, you go from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, to 11 to 12, and it's just like, okay. And I hadn't planned on going to college, so I was just kind of in like a stuck season. So I would look to people, usually around my age, that weren't going to college. Okay, what are they doing? And that's how I was trying to get my plan. But then like, you never really get to develop like that sense of self, or like, okay, what do I want to do as an individual, not just what is everybody else doing. So like for you guys, well, I mean, I guess I'm a little younger than everybody, but like, what were you guys doing after high school? Because like that might help me a little bit, and especially a lot of the young viewers. So
Dang. After high school, I was in a interesting space, right? Because it was either one, I did not want to go to college, right? I wanted to like try to push and do music, right? So like I said, similar to you, right?
Exactly.
But my parents were adamant about me living a comfortable,
of course,
lifestyle for me and for them. You feel what I'm saying? And more so I feel like a lot for them because of what they saw, right? And this goes back to them. Like I feel like they were in a space of comparison. Like my parents didn't do this, right? So I got to make sure I'm this parent so I can show up for my son. So they compared themselves to previous generations, right? Whereas this generation that we in is like completely left field for 2 generations before us. You get what I'm saying? But that's a whole nother topic, conversation, you know what I'm saying? But so I was in a space where it was either I'm going to college or I'm going to the military. So I had to kind of like make my way in music while complying to the rules of the house, right? And I got some really close relationships, right? In school, but I forced myself to do it because I didn't want to disappoint my parents, right? You know, and that weight alone put me in a space where I was just like, dog, this ain't for me. I already knew I'm paying a bill right now. I don't even use the degree that I have.
Period.
You know what I'm saying? But
did you carry resentment towards your parents? Like, did you?
I don't. That's a good question. That's a really good question. It probably was at one point, but I know for a fact now that I'm able to see that they did the best that they could.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And like I said, that I wouldn't even be able to say that I recognized that they were fighting with previous generations of stuff if I wasn't in a space where I was healed. You know what I'm saying? So I thank God that he brought me to an awareness of that point, right? But it's just, had I known that earlier, I probably would have moved a little differently. You know, but I was succumbing to the ebbs and flows of my parents. You get what I'm saying? I wasn't able to make a decision for myself. So
that's the
what
biggest part of growing up, is realizing that like your parents are very human.
Exactly.
Like I used to see my mom like, if nobody knows, that woman knows. And then it literally wasn't until like 2 years ago I'm like, wow, she's like, she knows, but like she's human. Like some stuff she really don't know. Like
Right.
Carmen, that's a decision you're gonna have to make on your own. I can't at this point. I've taken you as far as I can take you, and it's up to you to go the rest of the way. And that like really almost broke me. I was just like, wow, there's nobody that really has the answers but me. So to your point about like what do I do after college, I didn't have a choice. It was college or college. Like it was not a military. It was not a stay at home. It was college. So, but that's because my mom, my dad have all the answers. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
But I think if I had the choice to like think about what I really wanted to do, and even in like my career now, no one has asked for my degree. No one has asked for my grades.
Yeah.
Nobody cares that I was president of my entire college. Nobody cares about none of that. So I've spent a lot of money to get like those accolades, but at the end of the day, no one has ever asked me that. But I would think back and be like, well, what's really like something that I want to do, and is college necessary for that? Is the military necessary for that? A lot where we come from, like you go to the military because we're trying to like make it, and everyone's been telling us like the military is the way to go, or college is the way to go. But sometimes, as we know, like YouTube University is real, and you can do like a lot with that. So breaking that, like your parents don't know it all, your like guardians don't know it all, was like the first step in that for me.
For sure. Absolutely.
Wow. Random. Do you guys ever find yourself like comparing yourself to Jesus or God? Hear me out. But like
Hear me out.
That's a question right there.
I have this standard, obviously, like be like Jesus, right? And then when I fail and I know I'm failing, I'm literally comparing myself to like someone who's not human, right?
Yeah.
And I almost find like I beat myself up about it. And it's like I know that's not the headspace he wants me in, because sometimes that causes me to run or hide from him because I know like I'm inadequate. I'm not, but but like how do you dismantle that? Because in a way we're supposed to be like Jesus, right? But you don't want to get that comparison.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. Even with that, it's like, we are supposed to be like him, but we have to know that we never can be. Like, I feel like that's the standard. It talks about perfection, like so that you can be made perfect. And it's like none of us are perfect, and none of us ever are perfect. We never become perfect, and if you're out there and you're perfect, I mean, you're awesome. But I haven't met one yet, but like, I mean, but that's the standard. So I think we have to, if we see it that way, it's like we have to know we can never reach that. He is the highest, but it's like he's always calling us there. I mean, I think he lived prophetically for how we're supposed to live, the way that he walked in boldness and in communion with God. But it's something that we could never do, and that's why he did it for us. And so we gotta have grace for ourselves there. That he did all the stuff that we could never do. I don't know if that really answers it entirely.
Thank you, Jalen. It did.
I mean, you brought up something though, bro. Like, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people are like trying to be like Jesus, right? When we become aware of who he is and when we accept him into our life, we are already like him. Right, so we don't have to try to do anything. Right, the thing that we need to do is have grace for ourselves. That's it. When we fail, right, and we need to know that we will fail. Right, and if you don't know that you're going to fail, you're going to have that unrealistic, unhealthy expectation of yourself to try to be like Jesus every time you fail. Because Jesus didn't try to say, "Oh, well, when the devil come to me, I'm going to try to resist it." He just resisted. You feel me? So, but and he had everything that he needed in that moment. So we don't have to try to do anything. You feel me?
That's good.
I don't think I compare myself to Jesus per se, friend, but I think I do, or at least I used to have like these rules for me, like for example, like if I don't drink, if there's like no sex before marriage, like that's my gateway to heaven, or like that's my like ticket. Like if I just hold this like standard, and when like sometimes when you fall short of that, like you feel like you've missed the mark, or like God doesn't love you anymore, or like you've fallen short. So I think I used to really bad like try to maintain like this posture of like, I have to look good because, in church, like, you don't want people whispering about you. It's a big thing. It's a big cultural thing. Like,
that's a culture,
you have to like you have to be perfect. And like, I used to really think that like I had to break the thought of people going to church were perfect. Like, that's like saying like people who go to the hospital are healthy. So like I had to break that thought of like God, like, unconditionally loves me. Like I have to break the thought that like there was conditions to God's love. And I'm still learning that now. Like, God loves me unconditionally. The people that he's used in the Bible are not that you should do this, but are murderers, and people who are his like disciples some of them are like criminals, but like they've set the right path, like they changed course and like asked for forgiveness and like went on to like live great lives. But having that level of discernment that like God loves you unconditionally. Like there's no need to set yourself to, like, you should set yourself to a standard, but that like I never said like it's okay to fail.
Same.
I never said that to myself. I think more people should.
I cringed, but yes.
Wow.
I'm working through it.
But that's the thing. Yeah, you're in a good space if you're working through it. You know. So.
And then a lot of times, like when I get that, because I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily compare myself to Jesus, but there are times where I'm like, no, but I love that you said that, because that's real. That's real though. But for me, I understand that like our faulty is like what completes Jesus' purpose. So if we didn't have those mistakes, there would be no reason for him to be here.
That's right.
So we can have comfort in that. You know, don't be walking around here just doing whatever you want just because like, oh, Jesus
Right.
died for
Yeah,
us.
right.
That's
No.
great.
Yeah.
But you know, but understanding that like it's supposed to be that way.
Exactly.
So
That's
that's
really
what gives me
good.
comfort.
100%.
That was
good.
a bar, bro.
That was.
For sure.
I'm about to write that down.
Yeah.
Do we say law for a moment?
Right. Can we just sit in that?
The spirit is
No, that was good.
Yeah, that was really
No,
good.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
How does comparison rob you of seeing yourself and your own journey better?
That's a good question.
Because I think we can't talk about comparison without talking about uniqueness and like yourself. Like, because if you're comparing, you're looking at somebody else as if they have something you don't, and you're also, in that same sense, you're neglecting yourself from what you already have. So even like, I think there's a fine line. I don't think comparison is always bad. I think it can be okay. Even like how you compare yourself to your dad, or how we compare ourselves to different careers. I think it's bad when you see them as greater or having more than you do.
Yeah.
Because then you're not seeing what you truly have.
Right.
And then you're not even spending time going to God and saying, God, what do I have? God, who'd you make me to be? Like, who am I? And you're not asking to be led in that way so much, because you're like seeing what you don't have or what you think you should have, like social media or other people. So we rob ourselves of seeing ourselves well when we compare in that way, like in a lack way. And we don't have any lack when we have God. You know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I have no lack, you know. So I think that we would be free of comparison a lot too when we just turn to God more, to like find out who we are and to know that we have everything we need. And if we haven't seen it yet, it's in us. So we have it in us somewhere. So you know what I mean. So comparison, I don't always see as bad. It's bad when you use it as a weapon against yourself. You know,
because like I was saying earlier, that's that fine line between like admiration and comparison. One thing that I like, that term or that phrase, like the grass is always greener on the other side. If you're really too busy looking at what somebody else's has, you're not even watering your own grass. So I feel like that robs you from being able to like really grow your own things, because you're just like, oh, well, if I'm not there yet, I might as well not even try. Like there are times, I mean, this is kind of embarrassing, but like, yo, I be in the gym, right? And so if I see somebody like, you know, scrolling on Instagram and they're bigger than me, I'm like, yo, why am I even here? I'm never gonna be like that. And it'll cause me to like want to stop. But like, well, first of all, that dude over there might be on them roids. Let's just be real. You know, it's probably a little Photoshop, a little Facetune on there. I know y'all be using that. You know what I'm saying? So you can't do that, because it just anything that makes you not feel great about yourself or doesn't push you, you know, to be better. You don't need that. You don't need that in your life at all.
you said you might be on them roids.
Hey, look, folks be on them
Listen,
roids.
that's not bicep, that's biceps. On one arm.
But the thing is, but to that point, it's like we be comparing ourselves to people that are not even worth comparing to. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and we're so worried about what we see, and it's a deception.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then Pastor Stephanie just talked about deception. Yo, that word deception, dog. Like, I could go in on that. You know what I'm saying? Because I spent my whole life, like a lot of my life, being deceived. Thinking I needed these certain things to validate myself or get validation from others. That's deception. That's a veil over my eyes. You feel me? So it's like, you don't need any of that. And to the other thing, you was talking about, like, if you looking so far ahead, you missing like grass being watered. Those are moments, right? And in the grand scheme of things, those moments is what gets you to that part that you're so worried about. If you stay present in those moments, you'll have everything you need, and you'll look back and say, all right, this moment on September 12th, 1937. That's a little old, but you'll be able to specifically look. And that's why journaling is important. You know, you'll have to look at it. You'll see it, timestamp, date. On this day, I said to myself this. I saw it come to pass. That was a moment. Now I'm here living it. You know what I'm saying? That defeats comparison right there. You feel me?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, you're unequally comparing yourself.
Exactly.
A lot of times. That's really interesting. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, you got to value the moments. You got to value the process, because you're comparing yourself to somebody who might be further in the race or in a completely different race or whatever it might be. And so it's like, there's no point. Like that's, of course that's damaging.
I posted on my story a couple weeks ago that like my prayer was asking, I want to see myself how God sees me. And I think my comparison, I literally be comparing myself to my old self, like my new self to my old self. You know what I mean? Like Michaela who used to be in the streets, or Michaela who, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes I'm like, I get so involved in that, I'm not able to even see how far I've come or how much I've accomplished, because I'm constantly in this battle between who I want, like who I am, who I'm trying to be, who I was. You know what I mean? And I literally find myself like, when other people look at me, they're looking at Michaela from 5 years ago, and that's not true, you know, but I'm in my head because like that's who I'm comparing to every single day. You know what I mean?
Are you saying that in like a bad way, or are you saying like you've grown since then?
I'm saying it's something that I'm struggling with, you know, and like my prayer is like, help me to see, God, I want to see me how you see me, because he's not gonna see me for my past. You know what I mean? He's not gonna see me for who I was back then. I don't even think he wants me to compare. To your point, like some comparison is good. I get that. But no, I was talking about it in like a negative way, you know, because some of that stuff, I've grown and I've evolved, and God has forgiven me, so I need to forgive myself too. I need to leave that in the past too, because it's hindering me now on my walk, on my current journey.
Got you.
Because I want you to elaborate a little bit, because you were also saying that like sometimes because you think about your past in a certain way, you think that people look at you like that. Do you think it's really people looking at you like that, or is it just in your head?
100% it's internal. No one, 100%. It's ego, it's internal. And that's why it's so important for me to let go of that and realize that God doesn't see me for that person anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so it's internal.
I believe he probably only sees us one way always. You know?
Even in your past.
Even in your sin, I don't think he ever saw you as that, because he's always seen you one way. He created you one way. I really feel this. He's created you one way. And that's why Jesus comes to free us from the past and from that sin, so that we can see ourselves with freedom. So we can have freedom in ourselves, so that we can know that he took on all of it for us. Like he took that off of us, because God says, it says, I blot out your transgressions for my own sake. He can't be around anything impure or sinful. Like he doesn't, it's not even good for him. He's like, I don't got that around me. It's only holiness. I created you holy, and I gave you Jesus to hold on to be washed clean by, so that you see yourself holy. So you see yourself how I see you. You know,
well, where can I sew into that?
That word?
Where should we?
What's your cash? Just put his cash app
Put the
right here at
cash
the bottom of
app.
the podcast.
Whatever it is.
We love that. I needed that.
Wouldn't it be great to like see ourselves the way that God sees us all the time? We would never compare ourselves ever again.
You know, it's so wild you said that, man. I had this like literal vision as we were just talking just now, like of, is God, you know, just imagine all of us in heaven with God right now, right? And it's our heavenly person, right? It's like how God sees us, and then another thing or version of us is formed, but it's still attached to what God sees. You get what I'm saying? So it's God coaching the person that he sees the way he's supposed to see you, right? And the person that is not who you really are is behind there trying to pull at that heavenly thing. You get what I'm saying? So we form our own sometimes based off of what we're seeing, based off of how we're feeling, right? Emotions play a big part in that other entity that's created, right? But if we literally was to see how God sees us, like that's like literally saying that, that's heavy,
right?
You know, like But that's what I was saying as we were just talking. Like we all in heaven just chilling, and then out of nowhere, boom, there's another version of us that forms because we see ourselves lower. You see what I'm saying? It's wild, man.
Wow.
Jeez. Amen.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Look, like when you put it in the terms we're putting it, it's like we shouldn't be doing that to ourselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
sad.
But and that's the thing, we are doing it to
Right.
ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, like we don't have to.
Right.
You know, you could literally say, I don't want to think about this anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to feel this way, God. Help me to regulate and govern my thoughts.
Right.
Because through the Holy Spirit, we have that power.
Right.
We have that authority to do that. They can take control of our mind.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not Holy Spirit control my mind. It's Holy Spirit help me to control my mind.
Absolutely.
Because He's a helper.
Yeah.
He's a helpmate. He's a gentleman. He's not gonna come in, all right, man, you ain't doing it right. Let me do it for you.
Yeah.
That's why we
Yeah.
have free will.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good.
So
Wow.
how can we start that process of like loving ourselves more and valuing our individuality and where we're at currently and our race? You know what I mean? How can we start to focus ourselves more there rather than looking all these other ways and even beating ourselves up by looking at our past us or things that we've done that we're not proud of? Like, how do you think we can start that process?
I think the cure is just being present. That's the cure for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we have, because you see people doing all this stuff and you always think, okay, yeah, what's my 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? But everything happens in steps.
Yeah.
So like if you're too busy looking so far ahead, you're not gonna see like, okay, that looks so far, but like, yo, if I just take this step today, if I take another step tomorrow, you'll get there. So being present and then just falling in love with like who you are presently. Like people always think, oh yeah, I gotta do this, I gotta go to therapy, and do go to therapy. I'm all with that. But I'm
Yes.
saying like, people always just think it's so far ahead, but I'm just like, no, it's just about starting and fall in love with the process of it.
Yeah.
I think that's my answer for your question.
Amen.
That's good, Zane. Pastor Sarah told me something a couple of weeks ago. She basically was just encouraging me to find my anchor in something like real, something that no one else can take away from me. Like I'm not going to find it in appearance. I'm not going to find it in obviously financials, even in career, you know what I mean? How far I make it. Finding my anchor in something real that someone can't take from you is really like your relationship with God. And like your relationship with God is like a legit relationship. You know what I mean? Like it takes work and like sometimes it's you're fighting, it's like it's draining, but like finding that anchor, I feel like that's been my goal, and I feel like that's what I would tell anyone who is in that space, you know what I mean, struggling with comparison. It's like anchor yourself to something that no one can take away from you.
Amen.
I love that.
Man, this answer gonna seem real. Your answer was very good. I'm sorry, I didn't want to like dismiss that. This gonna seem real churchy. But
Take us to church.
fasting and prayer, yo. Fasting and prayer. Simple as that, man. Like the Bible literally says that certain things do not get overcome unless you fast or pray.
That's real.
You know, not or both sometimes. You got to do both. You're supposed to be praying all the time, right? But fasting is something that you have the decision to make, right? You obviously can decide to pray. I'm sorry, but you can decide to pray too. But the point of what I'm saying is a lot of stuff will not change unless you take time to be intentional about saying, all right, God, I'm going to remove everything that brings me comfort. I'm going to remove everything that makes me understand, oh, well, this time, this structure, this day, I have to devote this time to you by doing nothing that brings me comfort. So fasting and prayer, that's my answer.
I think it's super not churchy, actually, because like fasting is just simply denying yourself of something. That you like just putting God in front of that, and in prayer, that's your communication with God. The one who does see you perfectly and sees you whole and how you're supposed to see yourself. So you need that, and then you can deny yourself. You can deny yourself food if you want to, but you can also deny yourself those comparison triggers. You can deny yourself access to social media, access to certain people, events.
That's good.
You can cut off certain things and say, I don't need that right now while I'm praying, so I can start to be refined by that and see myself better, So I think that's super practical too. Because I think you hear fasting and praying, it's like, oh, that's going to take some work. I'm going to be hungry.
It sounds,
I'm not eating for 30 days. It's going to be tough, I don't think it's always that, So I like that a lot.
I know y'all looking at me, but I'm over here learning, to be honest. Some over
Gotta
here like,
receive,
this is good stuff. But I would agree with you, Zay. Like, I'm very much, I need to know what's happening, where I'm going to be this time next year, that I forget that, like, this amazing podcast is happening, and like where I'm like in Los Angeles, so like I'm learning to be just okay with it being in this moment, because the moment I start thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna turn 26 and love you mom, but still at home, like I have to like really love the space that I'm in and love the person, like you said, I'm currently in. And then also learning that like fasting does not have to be food, like that's not like I can go a whole day without eating. I don't want to, but I can, and that's not really denying myself. But you know, Netflix is something that like is very comfortable for me, and not like really leaving my room. Social media, very comfortable for me. Like I can go and be on TikTok for hours to the time that the man is like, all right, maybe you should stop scrolling. Like I get like a little notification.
I get that notification far too often.
Wait, I need that. What's that?
I've never seen that.
Well, if you're on TikTok for an hour straight, like the next video you scroll to is like, whoa. You've been on TikTok way too long.
What?
Go take a break, get some water.
Yeah.
It's like,
Is that like something
that his voice?
Yes, that's his voice.
No, it's
That's
just you just haven't been on TikTok that long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same
you just haven't been on
thing.
TikTok that long.
Oh yeah, there's
But-
a couple videos they show.
Yeah,
I
and
love
then
it.
also like discipline. Like, so yeah, it's one thing to say like to fast, but hold yourself accountable to like, yes, I'm not going to, be on TikTok. I'm not going to be on social media.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, like those triggers. I'm going to turn off those triggers and hold yourself accountable to those. Because it's one thing to say I'm going to fast, but then you're like, I'm just going to do it. Or I'm just going to re-download it. So like discipline is a big thing too that I'm still practicing myself.
And even discipline after the fast. And I think sometimes people go on like a little week fast and then go right back to doing what they're
Yeah.
doing. The fast is supposed to be transformation.
Right. You're not supposed to be the same.
Right,
after the
exactly.
fast.
Right.
Yeah.
That's facts.
Absolutely. That's probably why you need a custom fast.
Exactly.
Because if it's too comfortable for you, you're not going to change.
We all need our
Exactly.
own fast like Daniel. Jalen
sure.
fast. Rick fast.
The Jalen fast.
I want to know what the Jalen fast is. Can we get
When
inside?
I
on
find it out, I'll let you know. Yes. That's hilarious.
Can we, I'm going to be this person. Can we just go around and say one thing that we love about ourselves? I think now it's like confidence is cocky, right? And like to speak about yourself in a way, it's like, oh, let me, I don't want to say dim my light, but let me chill out. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, or I don't want to. But that's a big part of comparison, like knowing who you are and like
that's real.
loving yourself.
Jeez.
Just a little one. Can we just a little one? And you guys should put it. Yeah, you start.
Why do I have to start? What?
You
'Cause
just
you're
so
Carmen.
beautiful on the end.
Because you're
Just-
Carmen.
That's
I like
that's
that's a
why.
great answer.
I'm glad you mentioned
I was like, man, I'm gonna have some
confidence,
time to
too.
think
Right,
about
right,
this
right.
one.
Don't think about it too much. Just what
I really like that y'all, I don't know. This is so hard.
is
Yeah.
It's
I don't know.
not
I mean, I
supposed
like
to be.
myself.
about
I don't know
yourself, yeah.
specific things. I like that. We were talking about documentaries. I like that. I really like the nerdy documentaries, and like I'm able to talk about different topics. Like we went from like talking about water to like hip hop to like solving mystery crimes. Like I really like that I'm able to like dip and dodge into different conversations.
So you like that you're a great conversationalist and people enjoy being around you.
Thanks.
There we go.
Very
Y'all
true.
heard that?
That's
Very
very
nice.
nice.
Hey,
You know?
Zay, you
got
didn't even
to.
practice that.
Yeah.
Hey,
That
was
great.
great.
Go crazy.
It's all in here. Yeah.
All right, Zay.
Me, yikes. Okay, I'm over here making it seem.
You got it.
I think I like that I'm the type of person that people listen to. I think for a long time, going back to my first statement about like comparing myself to my dad, everybody listens to him. So I think I used to think like, oh, that's not gonna happen for me because like that's my dad's thing.
Yeah.
But now I'm growing more into a person like, when I speak, people tend to listen. And yeah, that's something that I like about myself. And it's something that I'm discovering about myself
That's good, bro.
in the present moment.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with you, Zay. You have that, definitely have that quality.
Thank you.
For sure, for
That means a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'll make mine is short and sweet. I'm just realizing that like my sensitivity is my superpower, to be honest with you. And I love that about myself. Sometimes I'm like, girl, why are you such a simp? Why are we, you know what I mean? Why are we overthinking? But it's like, that's something that, I mean, quite frankly, not everyone possesses, and that's okay. But the world needs more love. The world needs more sensitivity. And this generation is so, we're not a toxic generation, but we're hard. We don't want to show feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's facts.
And I like that that's still within me. And I can still be confident and assertive and, an independent woman. But I'm soft and I'm a teddy bear on the inside. And that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's tough.
that's tough.
Shoot, man, I think mine is like, I don't know. The thing that's coming to mind is like my personality don't change no matter what room I'm in.
Facts.
You know what I'm
That
saying?
is
Like
very
it could be
true.
PT
Agreed.
sitting right here beside
On
me,
the real.
or it
That's
could be
agreed.
my grandmama sitting right here beside me. I'll be like, "What's up with y'all, man? How y'all doing?" Like that's me though, and I like that I'm able to show up in a room and do that, because a lot of people walk up to me and say, yo, just seeing you be you helped me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, geez, I ain't even know.
I'm one of them
You're
people,
very
bro.
consistent.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
don't do
Very
that.
consistent.
Hey,
Don't do that
somebody
on
bring
this
the tissue.
podcast.
Just roll it
Don't
out.
do that on this podcast.
No, it's true.
Because you already know,
Uh-huh.
like, I care about y'all, man. Like, you know, just seeing people grow,
Yeah.
like, you know, just being in the atmosphere is great. But
Yeah.
that's me. I'm gonna get out. I'm leaving.
We almost had a Rick moment.
Oh, it was about to be. He was about to be.
We could
out
have a
of
whole moment on Rick.
No,
For
don't.
sure.
Move on, please.
I got the blessing of living with Rick for a bit, and he changed my life in many ways.
Aw.
I'll move past it. No need tears at the end. No tears at the end. If I would say something, and I think it's something I learned to appreciate recently, is I like the fact that like humor in my life allows me to connect with people. It's something that I've never thought about. I've never said, "Oh, I'm funny," or "I think I'm funny." I just naturally am always
"I know
joking
I'm funny."
around, and then I like seeing people smile.
Yeah.
So I'm like joking around, making people laugh and smile, and I love that I'm able to connect with people through humor. So I'm like very thankful, and I like that about myself, that is just something that's always been. But yeah, because I love communicating with people.
Yeah.
But that seems like an icebreaker with anybody.
Yeah.
It's just humor. Yeah.
I love that. All you guys are spot on. And honestly, I would challenge, if anyone's watching this, I would challenge them to, like, when you're journaling, write down 5-10 things that you love about yourself. You might be like, it's super easy. I've tried it. It's not.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
so
Like,
struggling.
it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, comparison. Thank you for listening. I hope you got something for this, and I hope the conversation continues for you, with your family, with your friends, and there's plenty more content coming.
Man, I hope that blessed you today. Just to hear that God doesn't want you to compare yourself to another because he made you unique. It's just such a necessary reminder. And maybe this is the first time you've heard it. Maybe you've struggled with comparison in your life and you're like, man, I really, really needed to hear that I'm not alone. I really needed to hear that I'm not the only one that struggles with this. And I'm believing that because you listened to this message, because you were here, there was a reason for it. God's intentional, and he doesn't just bring you into places or inspire you to watch things just because. I feel like there's always a reason why God brings us into atmospheres. And maybe that atmosphere was in your house, or maybe you listened to it in your car. Wherever you are, I believe that God can speak to you, and he wants to. I want to invite you right now to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed, send it to a friend if it was a blessing to you. Also, follow us on social media at Generation One Clips, because there's going to be uploads and all kinds of posts that can edify you and inspire you in your life.